Oh, thank you again for logging on to CoachPraterSaid.com and purchasing this particular video. This video is entitled, Will He Ever Marry You? Now, this is one of those touchy subjects that I've been actually very excited to touch on because I have a lot of clients. When I say a lot of clients, I have at least 20 clients currently that have been in relationships with a particular individual, and they've been a girlfriend for a very long time. They haven't even been proposed to, and you're just a lifelong girlfriend. And so he's sitting there telling you, let me just get my finances in order. Let me do this. Let me put some things together. And okay, you believe it. Year 1, you believe it. Year 2, year 5, year 6, year 10. Next thing you know, you're not engaged. You don't have anything. You barely got a committed relationship, but you've stuck around. The one thing that you can't get back is time. So here's my question to you. What has he shown you from day one to where you are today to show you the growth in a relationship? What has he shown you to show you that he's making progress to reach his goal that he set for himself? Let me just get my finances in order. Well, how much? What is considered in order? Is it $10,000 in the bank? Is it $5,000? Is it $100 in the bank? What is considered getting yourself together or getting your finances in order? A lot of men will use that as an excuse, and of course women will fall for it because they understand that a man's money is tied to his ego. If a man is not making the kind of money that he so desires, then everything else is at pause. A wise man understands that you can peak as an individual, but to connect to the right woman, she will inspire you to become that great man that you so desire. I said this on a radio interview one time. I said, a man by himself can become mayor, but connected to the right woman, he can become the president of the United States. A man by himself can become mayor, but connected to the right woman, he can become the president of the United States. Now, what do I mean by that? There's certain levels that connected to the right woman, the right person, can inspire a man to just want to go after something that he's never thought of before. Maybe he doesn't even have the education or the training, but because you are backing him as his woman and you encourage him and you boost his ego and build up his confidence to achieve those things, he just goes after it, right? But then you got the polar opposite man who is going to continue, he's going to get comfortable at that peak level, that mayor type level where, okay, I'm successful at my job. I got a couple things going for me, but I'm okay here. You know why he's okay here? Because you haven't required him to upgrade your status. Your girlfriend. You've been a girlfriend for 5 or 6 years. Okay, then what? You done been to 5 family reunions. You met all the relatives. I mean, you're in the family. Big Mama even calling you her granddaughter. Okay, so now what? You got all of these, these titles that mean nothing, and you don't have a ring. Some of you are living with your mate, and you don't have a ring. Will he ever marry you? Not if you don't require him to. Now, I know you got, a lot of you have probably watched Mr. Steve Harvey's book. I read his book. And it talked about making him requiring him or all that kind of stuff. That's great, but let me take it a step further. Who's to say that you're actually going to be the beneficiary after he reaches this particular goal? Maybe he's not reaching the goal on purpose. Maybe he has stunted his own growth because he knows, man, if I reach this, I actually got to keep my word and marry you. Who's to say you're going to be the beneficiary of this person's change? I mean, seriously, who's to say that you're going to be the person that after all the smoke clears, after all is said and done, he says, you know what, I'm going to be with you. Because here's the thing, ladies, I want you to really hear me. If you've given him, and I'm not talking about superficial stuff like sex and just, bought material things. I'm not talking about that. But if you have gotten comfortable with your relationship status and where you guys are, then he's not going to put forth much effort. I got a client right now that every time she kind of whines about what are we doing, are we ever going to get married, and we go they go ring shopping. Never put any money down on the ring, never purchase. She tries on different rings and she holds it up in her hand and says, oh my goodness, this is so pretty. and they never make a move. He's pacifying her for the moment because, yeah, if I can just get her to leave me alone about this subject, it gives me another day, another month, another year to just kind of be very patronizing to her and not do what I'm supposed to do, which is right anyway. So again, a lot of you are just in these long relationships. Will he ever marry you? That's a great question. If you haven't set your standards and said, listen, by this year we should be doing this, by that year should be doing that, every couple should come up with a blueprint. A blueprint a blueprint of success as it pertains to your relationship. Now, what do I mean by that? Sit down with a blank sheet of paper and write down your relationship goals. Sit down and say, okay, this is what we're going to attain this year. Maybe the first year, it's about getting to know each other. It's about, swapping ideas. It's about maybe building something together. Okay, year 2, hey, are we getting married? What are we doing? You know what I mean? Because here's the thing. If you let a man string you along and you don't put that pressure, ultimatums are actually okay. Don't ever let anybody make you think that ultimatums are bad. Ultimatums are actually okay. Either you're going to marry me or not. That's not pressure. Because if he runs because you give him an ultimatum, then you finally got your answer of the character of the person that you're dating. If they run because you're asking them questions or you give them an ultimatum, then they're not strong enough to be in a relationship with you to death do your part. I'm guilty of it myself. I can be honest and say that I'm guilty of it myself, but I'm at a different place now where anything less, I don't date just for fun. This is not dating just to kick it. No, absolutely not. We're dating with a purpose. What's your purpose? A lot of you are in relationships right now and you've been in them for quite some time and you have yet to define your purpose. What is the purpose? Why did you even connect? Why are you even with this person? Why did you meet that person's parents? Why have you met their kids? Why are we living together? Why do we decide to buy a car together? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? You have yet to define the purpose of your relationship. Y'all just going through every 24 hours just winging it. There's no solid plans. That's the reason why you're still not married. That's the reason why you guys are in the same relationship status that you were a year ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Because you haven't sat down and created a purpose. What's the definition of our relationship? What are we in this for? Why did we connect? What's the purpose? You have to define your purpose, and it has to be mutual, and it has to be mutually agreed upon. This person wants to do this and you want to do that. You can't change that person's mind. You guys have to have the same like-minded agenda as it pertains to a relationship. The reason he hasn't proposed to you or took the relationship to the next step, the next level, is because you haven't sat down and created a purpose. A lot of you haven't even got your Facebook request. Now, if that's really big to you, and you sent a request 6 months ago and he still hasn't answered that request, but you see him on Facebook updating the status and posting new pictures, he sees that request pending. But that shows you how important you are to this particular individual. The reason he hasn't accepted that status because he's not comfortable. He's not comfortable with taking the relationship to the next level. And if you're okay with that, then you shouldn't complain about the relationship being stagnant or being stuck. You shouldn't complain at all. You sent that request to him and he hasn't accepted it. That's showing you, like I said in the previous video, a man's actions are his words. He's showing you through his actions, no, I'm comfortable right here. We ain't got to let the world know what's really going on. So even though you've been to all the picnics, you've been all around with all his family and friends and all of that, but to show this display of affection, this display of love, maybe he's not ready for that. Now, would you want to marry someone who's not necessarily ready to show you that magnitude of love? If you haven't put any standards in place, if you haven't put a purpose before you guys and said we are off course. And here's the beautiful thing: when you physically get a piece of paper and write it down. Keep it in your nightstand. Keep it with you. memorize it, because that's going to be your gauge. When things get kind of rocky and you get off, you got to return back to that purpose and say, okay, what is it? What is it that we said we should be doing right here, right now? Year 1, year 2, year 3. What are we doing? In other cultures, now in the black culture, and we don't necessarily do this. Almost kind of like Planned Parenting. In other cultures, they plan parent. They don't have babies by surprise. A lot of times we have children in our culture by surprise. Oops, I'm pregnant. Oops, we got another baby on the way. Oops, oops, oops. In other cultures, they have planned parenting. Just like planned relationship, you sit down, and other coaches, they sit down and create an agenda for their relationship. What are we supposed to be doing? And you have to both agree on it. Don't agree to something that you don't necessarily approve of. Let me get my finances together, and then we're going to go ahead and take care of that. If you don't feel comfortable, if your discernment, if your woman intuition kicks in and you don't feel comfortable, say something. Say something. You know you can be in a relationship, you know you can be in a committed relationship and still settle. You can settle for the terms that he created in that relationship, and he's just stringing you along. That's not fair to you or him, because he'll get comfortable and say, wow, at least, okay, we live together. We've been living together for 3 years. Great. What does that mean? Nothing. Because if you were to die, or he was to die, you get nothing. You won't be the beneficiary of nothing, because there's nothing legally binding you. Now, if you're okay with that, then by all means continue your relationship. Again, this is informative to get you to create a purpose. Sit down with your mate and say, honey, I want to create an agenda. I want to create a purpose for our relationship. What is our goal? Are we going to have children? Do you want children? Do you want any more children? What is our relationship agenda? And you both have to agree upon it. You both have to meditate on it. And you both have to hold each other accountable. Write this down. Accountability. You are supposed to be each other's accountability partner. That means when he's slacking, you hold him up and say, no, we said we were going to do this. And vice versa. When you're slacking, he's supposed to hold you up and say, you said we were supposed to do this. And you guys take the steps towards a successful relationship together, sticking to the agenda. You have to. You have to. Will he marry you? Yes. If you create a purpose and that end result is marriage, he will. But if you don't create that purpose, then you'll be winging it. And your next thing you know, you'll blink and it'll be 10 years into your relationship and you'll say, wow, what have we accomplished in 10 years? A closet full of clothes that we've bought because there's a couple of I'm sorry outfits in there. Or, you've moved from apartment to apartment, maybe got your little townhouse now. All of those things are great, but that doesn't equal marriage. All of those things are great. That doesn't equal any type of commitment that means anything. You're really just kicking it. And if you're comfortable with kicking it, then by all means continue kicking it. But if you've ever laid in your bed and wondered, wow, we've been together for this long, will he ever? Every time we talk about marriage, he cringes. What's that about? You need to find out what that's about, because maybe in his mind he's created his own agenda, and he said, you know what? We're cool. I like the way we're going. We're good. We don't have to move. We don't have to do anything. And that's maybe in his mind. But in your mind, you're thinking maybe, man, one day I would love to be his wife. But if he's not looking at you in that regards and he's looking at you as a really cool girlfriend, then that doesn't match. That's going to make you a miserable person. And everything in your attitude is going to reflect that, because that's not what you set out. You didn't date this guy and been with this guy for this long to become a lifelong girlfriend. There's a way that you deliver this conversation as well. You don't come and say, we need to talk. Of course you don't do that. You don't send it via text. You wait. When you guys are sitting down, the football game is not on, nothing has his attention, and you introduce this conversation and say, hon, I want to sit down and create our purpose, our relationship purpose. What do you mean a relationship purpose? What are we doing? What's our goal? What you mean what's our goals? Of course he's going to be defensive, because most men don't like to have that type of conversation. But it's good. It's good to have the conversation. It's a necessary conversation. No matter what, it's a necessary conversation that you have to have. If you avoid this conversation, again, you'll look up and it'll be years into your relationship and you guys technically haven't moved anywhere. Your status will still be pending on social media, and you'll still be, in the same relationship position that you were when you really first met. And the one thing that you cannot get back is time. You give this person, 3, 4, 5 years of your life and you can't get it back. Now what? Now what? And let's say the relationship doesn't work. Now you can't get that time back. Now you've wasted that time because you have nothing to show for it. You're not even the beneficiary of nothing. You didn't even you didn't get anything out of the deal. And now you're still single. Introduce a purpose-minded conversation in your relationship. Sit down, write it down, keep it in front of each other as you journey along in your relationship, And if you guys are not on the same page, then you have to make a decision. You really have to make an adult decision, a realistic decision, and figure out what you guys want to do. Because there's no sense in another relationship, another couple getting married or forcefully married in miserable matrimony because they don't agree. He's doing it because you just get on his nerves. All right, let's get married. And now you don't even have the wedding of your dreams because you forced, he's uncomfortable. He's just doing it because you're getting on his nerves. You don't want to be married that way. That's what I call getting married in miserable matrimony. You don't want that. Sit down together with smiles on your face. Create a relationship purpose and an agenda and stick to it. Be each other's accountability partner. Thank you for visiting CoachPraterSaid.com. I'm Coach Prater. I'll see you around.